Good morning to all dignitaries, faculty members, and all the participants. My name is Ambali Pancholi, Assistant Professor, ITM University, SUNS. I welcome to day three of our faculty development program as we already embark on an incredible journey of professional growth and exploration. And today we delve deeper into the theme of domains of pedagogy. As educator, it is essential for us to continuously expand our understanding of the various domains that influence the shape pedagogical practice. Today's session will provide us with the valuable insight and perspective on different aspects of pedagogy, enabling us to enhance our teaching method and create transformative learning experience for our students. So, without delay, I would like to welcome our today's guest speaker, and it is my distinct honor and privilege to welcome our honorable guest speaker, Professor Dr. A. Maria, Vice Principal of Mother Teresa PG and Research Institute and Health Sciences. Dr. Maria is a renowned scholar and accomplished expert in the field of pedagogy. Her vast experience, expertise have made her respected figure in the realm of nursing education. As we embark on this session, I encourage all of you actively engage with the Dr. Maria, ask questions, and participate in the discussion. Let us make the most of opportunity to learn from her wealth of experience and expertise. Please join in giving a warm welcome to Dr. Maria. We are truly honored to have her here today. We are eagerly look forward to her enlightenment lecture on the domain of pedagogy. Ma'am, I welcome you. Kindly join us. Thank you, ma'am.
Well,
Ma'am, you are not audible. Sorry, ma'am, to interrupt, but you are not audible, ma'am. Ma'am, kindly unmute yourself, ma'am. Ma'am, you are still not audible, ma'am.
ma'am, you are not audible, ma'am. Maybe your earphone is not connected properly. That's why, ma'am. No, ma'am, you are not audible, ma'am. No, ma'am. Ma'am, ma'am, can you remove your earphone, ma'am? So maybe your voice is proper, maybe.
Ma'am, you are not audible.
No, ma'am, you are not audible, ma'am. Till now, you are not audible. No, ma'am.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Audible.
Yes, ma'am. You are audible, ma'am.
So extremely sorry for the inconvenience. This happens due to technological problem. Okay. Dr. Farooq, could you please share my slide?
Yes, ma'am. Just a minute, ma'am.
Yes, yes. Or else I will share. So thanks for the opportunity given to me, and a special thanks to Dr. Farooq Khan, National President, NGI. So next slide, please. So this is what we are going to deal with. What is taxonomy, importance and significance of taxonomy, and major domains of taxonomy, levels of each domains and domains of competency, and areas to use. So next slide. So here, the education is a must element for everyone else. Because from birth to death, somehow we are educating, we are being educated. So it is a continuous and ongoing process to bring the change in behavior. So in teaching and learning process, in any institute, normally there are 3 approaches of teaching strategy which we follow. It would be helpful for thinking, helpful to think teaching styles according to 3 Ds. First one is directing, which means learning promotes through listening and following directions. And discussing, that means learning promotes through interaction, talking with each other, between the communication between the teacher and the learner. And delegating, it means the learning promotes through the empowerment. So we will be able to gain the knowledge at the same time that would be putting into the action. Next slide. Okay, so what is what? What do you mean by pedagogy? Since 2 days, we have been seeing about the meaning of pedagogy. And this pedagogy, in the sense, it is a theory of teaching and or a profession. So it is mainly related with teaching side only. And who frames this design? The educators' own teaching beliefs and concern the interplay between the culture and different ways to learn. So what do you mean by domains? Domains, it's in the sense which is related with what we are going to see for this 45 minutes, an area of knowledge and activities. So taxonomy, in the sense, it is a Greek word which means taxis, that means arrangement, and nomos, which means science, that means taxonomy, literally speaking about the science of arrangement. So it implies that when we follow this taxonomy, we should follow the levels, the classification of the science or classification of the science to be followed while we are teaching and while you are using it in the teaching learning process too. Okay, next slide. So pedagogy, it is nothing but it is teaching, there are 3 elements which is comprised in pedagogy. First one is teaching method. What the instructor are doing, how the teacher is instructing, and learning activities. These 3 components, like, so what the instructor asks the student or the learner to do, and assessment. So after once, in order to assess or in order to evaluate the caliber or capacity of the student, many assessment like giving assignment, project, and task that measure the student, how far the student have learned. So pedagogy, simply to blindly, when we say about pedagogy, it composed of all 3 components like teaching methods, learning activities, and learning assessment. Next slide. So these are the three components which is composed in pedagogy. Next slide. Previous slide. So taxonomy, the definition, when we look into the meaning of taxonomy, it is a classification system where it is being used in the teaching learning process. And how it is being used, for what it is being used is to define and distinguish different level of human, because the level of students may vary. So in order to distinguish the different level of human cognition, what are the human cognitions? Thinking level of the students, learning level of the students, and understanding level of the student. Not only the students, even this will be applicable even to the teachers also. Next slide. So who developed this taxonomy? So we have been hearing and seeing Bloom's technology. So it is developed by Benjamin Bloom. He is a educational psychologist. In the year of 1956. He has created Bloom's technology in 1956 to promote higher order thinking in education. His contribution is enormous. He is contributed towards research in mastery learning. So why it has been developed by what interest, what made him to create this taxonomy is in order to promote higher forms of thinking in education, such as the student has to develop or develop the analyzing capacity and evaluating concept, process and procedures and principle rather than just remembering. So if you just remember sometimes or some other way, we will forget soon. So in order to have a depth learning, he has made this Bloom's technology. So it is often used to design educational centered and a training and learning process too. And main thing what he has done is, it is most often this taxonomy is mainly used to design the educational objectives. So for example, when we write up any lesson plan, so according to the levels of the students, what are the domains can be, what are the levels, what are the domains, however it could be used to have a complete sense of learning of the student for which it is being used. So what is the essence of Bloom's taxonomy? So here, the Bloom's taxonomy is essential framework for educator to design instructional objectives and also for assessment purpose. So how does it help us? It encourages to develop a critical thinking and deeper learning among the students. So it is very essential. So it is an instructional theory that categorizes the levels of learning, and it is also considered as a tool for educator to assist with the for learning outcome, even for curriculum planning. When we design some curriculum planning, when we plan for introducing some input into the curriculum, so this Bloom's taxonomy would be very helpful for framing the curriculum planning and content delivery. How far we are able to, so by combining of all the domain, how far we are able to deliver a talk or deliver a content to the audience, to the learners, that in such a way it would be helpful, and for assessment of the learning. And this is again classified from lower to a more difficult, from simple to, so we have been learning about what are the principles of education, from simple to complex, from simple level, lower order to higher level. Ultimately, if we are insisting the learner to make into a difficult, higher learning, it is difficult for them. So from gradually, step by step, we are increasing the learning process for the students. So for which it has been used. Next slide. So why we are using Bloom's taxonomy in education, in all education, not only in nursing, but also wherever we go with regard to any arts and science, every technical education part. So this Bloom's taxonomy is being used. Why for it is being used is, it is a learning goal. So in order to frame your educational objective, to establish a pedagogical interchange. So from the student and the teacher, it has been used so that the teacher and the students alike understand the purpose of interchange and organizing objectives. That means it helps to clarify the objectives for themselves and for the students. So having an organized set of objectives helps the teacher to plan and deliver appropriate instructions and design valid assessment. There are so many assessment processes are there. So we can design, so for which student, which assessment would be helpful. In such a manner, this Bloom's taxonomy will be helpful to design a valid assessment task and strategy, and to ensure the instruction and assessment are aligned with the objectivities. So for these are the purposes we are using Bloom's taxonomy in our educational process, educational aspect, especially in nursing. Next slide. And also this useful, with regard to Bloom's taxonomy, it will be useful for both teachers and the learners also. So the teachers, when we make a Bloom's taxonomy in a proper way, we are accountable for anything happens. As a teacher, we are accountable for anything. And we'll be able to know what is the exact rules and regulation or responsibility of the faculty. And we can even make out, by following the Bloom's taxonomy carefully, we will be able to make up our self-assessment. How far we are grasping the knowledge, how far we are imparting the knowledge to the students, so that we'll be able to make a self-assessment. And it is again, it will be helpful for the teachers to have a continuous professional growth also. How far it will be useful for the learner is, again, we can make the students think critically. We can make the students to motivate to answer to the questions like how, why, when, where. For a single aspect, if we make the students to develop to answer these questions for how, so critical thinking will be developed, and they benefit students by teaching them various to approach new ideas, so that by making the teacher will follow various teaching strategies, so that the students will be able to find some of the newer concepts. So that would be useful, that will be helpful in their future career. And this Bloom's taxonomy would be definitely will be helpful to foster the higher order of thinking and create more engaging and effective learning environment. So next slide. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, in 1956, this cognitive domains are being developed by our Benjamin Bloom. And so along with their co-workers, like they are a curriculum planning theorist and cognitive psychologist, this affective domain it is been framed in 1964 by Trothole. Along with that, Benjamin Bloom, he has developed, and psychomotor is developed by, objectives are being developed by Simpson in the year of 1966. Okay, so next slide. So what are the major domains? So the main components of major domains are, we have to use our heart, head, and hand. This is what. So here, just you can press. So cognitive domain, which is related with the knowledge, and affective domains, which are being, so how far the person is emotionally bonded up. The affective domain, the growth in feeling of emotional areas. That means the attitude and the values and self of the individual. And psychomotors, which includes the manual and physical skills of the individual. So when this major domains, what it insists is, if you want to make your teaching in an effective manner for the betterment of the student learning, so you have to use 3H: head, heart, and hand. This is what he is in. So in later slides, we will be discussing about each and how, what do you mean by cognitive domain, and how it has to be used, so that we will be thinking it in later on. Next slide. So this is what a previous slide, previous. So head is knowledge based. We have to think and do, think, rethink, and you do some comprehensive manner. So head is based on knowledge based. Heart is emotional based. So that means how far you are emotionally bonded, or emotionally for the growth of the individual, for the growth of the attitude, how you are moving. So emotional feeling. And hand, it is action based, how we are doing it, the action do. Next slide. Okay, so the first domain is cognitive domain, which has been developed by Benjamin Bloom in the year of 1956. So it has got 6 categories. It involves knowledge and the development of intellectual skills. It includes recall and recognition of specific facts and procedural patterns and concepts that serve the development of intellectual ability and skills. Okay, so here this will be including this cognitive domains, which include all these components, elements like thinking, recalling, and able to resolve, reasoning the problem, reasoning ability or logical ability and problem solving abilities. So these are, so here this cognitive domain, it has been categorized into 6 levels. So main concept, so the essence of this cognitive level is you will make it will bring from simple to complex level. Okay, next slide. Starting from simple to complex. So here you have 3, so 6 levels of cognitive domains. First one is knowledge. So what is knowledge? It involves a recall and specific universal and comprehension, and we will see one by one in later slides. And application. So from lower thinking to higher thinking, it will make it will help to the students or the learners to go the travel from the lower order to higher order. Just press. In order to remember this 6 to this levels, just press please. So here it's abbreviation, it is mnemonics. Know your clear ability to approach success for empowerment. Know knowledge, your ability. See, this is for us to easy remember, for making us to have a easy remembrance. Know your clear ability to approach. So if you remember this word, then you'll be able to differentiate, able to list down what are the 6 levels of cognitive components, cognitive levels. Next slide. Next slide. So what do you mean by knowledge? Knowledge, it is remembering and recalling and memorizing what was known. Suppose if you ask the students to list down the name of, list down the cranial now, the students will be able to recall or remember there are 12 cranial nerves like that. So remembering the terms and the fact and details without necessary understanding. So here it is a superficial learning. Just no need to understand what exactly it is. Just to remember what it is. So here in this component, so in order to design the objectives, educational objectives, we need to use some action verbs. So with regard to knowledge, so these are the action verb very well could be used: define, describe, identify, list, matches, and recognize, etc. Next slide. Next slide. Then comprehension. Comprehension, it does mean, it is a construction of meaning, because in knowledge, just without understanding, just to list down the name alone. But here we will come to, we'll be able to find out the meaning by our own from what information which we received. This is what comprehension. Understanding the meaning, relation, and interpretation of instruction and problem, state a problem on word. So for example, we can say explain the role of genetic factors of cancer. So will be able to know will be able to understand what is the essence or the components, or what is the how the genetic factors which causes cancer will be able in deep learning, in deep manner, it will be useful. And constructing of meaning by own from information received. So for which we can use the action verbs, these are the things: comprehends, converts, defends, distinguish. So in order to make the component in a understanding manner, we follow these action verbs. Okay, next slide. Application, next one, application. So here, use of abstraction in particular and concrete situation, which means that use a concept in a new situations. For example, apply a formula to already has been learned, but how far the student or the is able to apply in a day-to-day life, in a situation, new situation. For example, the nursing students would have studied psychology about how the therapeutic communications. So in the theory class, he would have learned, but when she goes to the clinical side in a new setup, she'll be able to apply the theory knowledge into the practice. This is what application. Use the abstraction in particular concrete and situation. So here some actions verbs like applies, changes, demonstrate, and discover, prepare. These are the action verb would be useful for designing a educational objectives too. Next slide. Next slide. The analysis. The analysis, it represents the breakdown of communication into the constituent elements or a part such that the relative hierarchy of ideas is made. So breaking the material or concept into small part. For example, identify why this machine is not functioning. So you're making the, so here very well you are instigating or you're triggering the students' critical thinking. So why it happens? How does, if not this, what would be happen? Likewise, you are making the students to develop the concept of critical thinking. So here the verbs which can be used is analysis, breakdowns, and compass, diagrams, deconstructs, differentiate, and identifies. So these are some of the words could be used. Next slide. What is the next one is synthesis. Synthesis, it is putting together all the element as a whole. For example, the builds a structure or pattern from diverse elements, put all the parts together as a whole. For example, you can make the students to design a procedure manual for critical care. So putting all the elements together and make it as a whole. So here action verbs which could be used here in the level synthesis is categorize, combines, compiles, compose, creates, explains, generates, modifies, and organizes. Next slide. The sixth level is evaluation. Evaluation, it is a product's judgment about the value of material and methods for given purpose. So make a judgment. So for example, example here you could see that select the most practical solution for reduction in prevalence of bed sores in the neurological unit. So here what the learner will say, what could be the causes or factors which are causing bed sore, how it could be rectified, how it could be modified. So here most practical solution. So what are the strategy which could be carried out to reduce the incident of a bed sore? It is coming under evaluation. And action verbs here is your apprise, concludes, contract, critic, describe, discriminates, and evaluate and explain and interpret. These are some of the action verbs are being used. And this Bloom's taxonomy with regard to cognitive domain, it is actually created in the year of 1956, but it has been revised in next slide. It has been revised into 2001. Next slide. With the help of call. Next slide. Yeah. So in 1956, you would have used this Bloom's. The levels are being used with noun shape, whereas in 2001 it has been created into verb form. So remember, understanding, a comprehension is changed into understand, and application is changed into apply, analysis is changed into analysis. Likewise, by here synthesis is being in 2001, it is being interchanged into create. So that it has been placed into a top level, high level. Okay, so this is what next slide. Okay, remember to recognize and recalling. This is to revise the Bloom's taxonomy with regard to cognitive domains. Recognize and recalling fact, understanding what fact actually mean, and apply the fact and rules, concept and ideas in apply, in the level of apply. And fourth level analysis, which includes the breaking down information into components and evaluate, just judging the values of information and ideas, and create. So in 1956, the synthesis word has been changed into the verb of create, which has been placed into the top level. That means combining all parts to make a new whole. That means in nursing, in teaching and learning process, we must use some what do you call, innovative process in teaching learning situation. Okay, next slide. Okay, next domain, it is related with it is based on emotions, values, and it includes attitude, values, interest, appreciation, and enthusiasm and motivation. This aspect of affective domain describe the way people react emotionally, actually. Emotionally, their ability to feel another living things like pain and joy. So the emotionally, if the patient feels pain, how far will we put ourselves into that action? So what emotions we get? So a feeling of another living things, pain and joy. Affective domains typically target the awareness of growth and attitude, emotions, motivation, and feeling. There are 5 levels of affective domain, which is moving from lower to higher level. So it is framed basically in a hierarchical structure. Next slide. Next slide, please. Yeah. So these domains of hierarchical structure is arranged from simple feeling to a more complex feeling. This hierarchical structure, so you could see from lower level to higher level, this hierarchical structure is based on the principle of internalization. So what do you mean by internalization? It refers to the process whereby your affect towards something goes from a general awareness level to a point where the affect is internalized in the consistently guiding or control yourself. So when you go from lower level of your emotion to higher level, there we could see some changing of your behavior. That is what this internalization refers. It is a process whereby the affect towards something goes from general awareness to the specific part. This is what. So this is basically affective domain is basically functioning under the principles of internalization. Just to press in order to ease in to have a easy remembrance. I have coined some mnemonics here. Just to press, please. Have one press. Next. Yeah. Reach out via optimistic character. So reach, it is something related with receiving. Reach out, responding via valuing, optimistic, organizing, and characterizing. So from lower level. So this is easy to remember the levels of 5 levels of affective domains. Next slide. So here we could see, so what is the meaning of receiving? Just it is a passive involvement. Whatever we say, that student will listen to. So there will not be, you cannot find the active participant from the student side. Willingness to hear, willingness to give attention, able to hear whatever you say. So the example, listen to others with respect, listen for the remember of the name and newly introduced people. So action verbs here used are ask, choose, describe, follows, names, points, to select, replace, and uses. So the main important concept which we should remember here is in receiving, there won't be any active participant. Passive participant and perceived involvement are expected here. Next slide. Next slide. Responding here, not like receiving, in responding where you can find the active participation on the part of the learner. He'll be able to attend and react to the particular phenomena. For example, in a group, when you ask some questions, the students will be able to respond and participating in the classroom activities or group discussion. And when you give some group project, so they will be involved, but actively participate in of making a project in a proper manner with full confident level. So here the action verbs which is being used for responding is answers, assist, confirms, discusses, greet, helps, label, perform, present, read, and all those things. Okay, next slide. So valuing, what do you mean by valuing? Is the ability to see the worth of something and express it. The value, the attitude, the worth or value of the person which is attached to the particular object. So this will be a particular object or a behavior. This range from simple acceptance to more complex state of commitment. So initially, when we have more involvement, when we feel it is worth to something else, first of all, we'll accept that something else. And later on, as it goes higher level, later on, it will help for us to make a commitment for doing something for those. We will be able to express it in a proper manner. That, for example, for valuing is demonstrate beliefs in the democratic process, is sensitive towards individual and cultural differences. Okay. Then action verbs are complete, demonstrate, differentiate, explains. So first we will accept. Suppose in a clinical side where you have to meet all the people with the same different cultures, accept that, then we'll be able to do. This is what talks about value. Accept the person, and according to this, we'll accept what else we can be able to do for that particular person. That will become your commitment. So values is between acceptance and commitment. You will have the ability to see the worth of something which is being expressed. Next slide. Organizing. So it is able to prioritize the value over another and create the unique system. So here what I can say is the organizers value into priority. So you have to prioritize the by contrasting the different values, resolving. So here you can resolve the conflicts between them and creating a unique value in that particular system. So ability to, for example, we can say that the teenager spends more time in her study than with her boyfriend. So he will be able to find out, able to sensitize which is the priority one, whether spending more time for study or with a friend. So if spending more time for the study, it is again the growth of their person. And later on, so how far he is able to sensitize the priority about oneself is organizing. So able to prioritize the values over another and create the unique system. So here some of the action verbs like adhere, alter, or arrange, combines, compare, complete, defend, explain, generalize, and identify. These are the verbs to be used with regard to organization. Next one is characterization. So characterization, in the sense, it is ability to internalize the values and let them control the person's behavior. So able to which is correct, which is not correct. Whether I am doing consciously or concisely. So able to internalize my own value. So this would be really helpful to control our behavior in some situations. So for example, in order to have for example, I can say a man, suppose marrying a girl, not because of the look, but for what she is. Okay, so this is a exact example for characterization. So internalize the value, which is very important. Okay, so here when in coming to the teaching process, learning process, cooperate in group activities. So action verbs are used are act, discriminate, display, listen, modify, perform, practice, questions, revise, serves, and solves, verifies, etc. So these are some of the things which are related with your cognitive, affective domains. Next slide. Okay, next, third domains. This is a third domain, psychomotor domain, which involves physical movement and coordination, use of motor skills areas. So this psychomotor domain describes about obtaining the skills or ability to carry out physical tasks, such as the skill of a nurse in catheterizing a patient or operating a mechanical ventilation. So ultimately speaking about the action, it is based on action, how he is performing, how he is doing. Next slide. Okay, so these are some of the psychomotor levels. It is 7 levels: perception, perception, set, guided response, mechanism, and complex overt response, adaptation, and organization, or origination. This is again coming from lower level to higher level. So traditionally, these types of objectives are concerned with the physical encoding of information, with movement, and with activities where he cross and fine muscles are used for expressing and interpreting the information or a concept. So normally this area is also refers to natural and autonomic responses or reflexes also. So next slide. So perception. Perception is ability to sensory cues to guide motor activities. So normally, when a person is able to apply sensory information to motor activity in the level of perception of the psychomotor domains. So for example, detect non-verbal communication cues and adjust drop rate based on the CVP reading of the patients. So here, the student will be able to apply the sensory information into motor activity. So here, the action verbs which are being used are choose, describe, detect, differentiate, distinguish, identify, isolate, and related selections. For example, we can say one more example. We can say that here in perception, we can say the example of a cook adjusts the heat of the stove to achieve the right temperature to the for the preparing the dish. So the ability to apply the sensory information to motor activity. Okay, this is what perception. Next slide. Then set. It is a readiness to act. That means, for example, it includes mental, physical, and emotional emotional sets. For example, we can say that suppose for obese patient, suppose a obese patient, he'll be much more interested to reduce his weight. Okay, the obese patient displays motivation in performing planned exercise. This is exact example for readiness to act. So likewise, this same level can be put into the learning process. He recognize one's ability and limitation. Accordingly, he will act while doing the teaching learning process. The action verbs are begin, display, explain, moves, proceed, react, source, and state, and volunteer. Next slide. Then next one is guided response. It is ability to display a behavior or utilizing the trial and error. For example, we can say, the new person going to work in the operation theater, where it is a new place for him. So where he'll be using the manual would be available in the operation theater. By making use of this manual, he is able to performing in the operation or making the manual how to operate that particular machine and all those things he will be doing it. This is what. So able to imitate a displayed behavior or use of trial and error. So for another example here, I can say that respond hand signals of structure while learning to operate a mechanical ventilator. So in the initial side, imagine that the first time the student is seeing and manipulating the mechanical ventilator. With the help of the teachers, the teacher how he is instructing by showing his motor, some signals he'll be able to follow. So from the sense to motor, he is following that. The student would be following that. So it is a response. This is an exact example for that. Just making a copying of what the instruction is being elicited. So action verbs which is using are copies, traces, follows, reacts, and reproduce, and response. So under guided response. And next one is the next level of psychomotor domain is mechanism. So what do you mean by mechanism? Next slide. the ability to convert learned response into habitual action. The learner is keep on doing, or next slide, keep on doing some of the instruction based on the instruction. It is intermediate stage in learning a complex skill. Learned response have become habitual. For example, he'll be using, but independently he'll be able to perform. This is what mechanisms talks about. So here, the ability to convert response into habitual action with proficiency and confidence. The confidence level here, the mechanism, the confidence level should be increased. For example, a mother was able to cook a delicious meal after having a practice. This is what this domain is being, now simulation is being used. So what's the simulation? When the learner is practicing with the simulation, later on, when she goes in a real situation, she'll be able to perform. The proficiency level and confidence level also increased to perform such a procedure. Before that, he would be practicing in the simulation lab. So here, so there will be an independent level is increased and confident level of doing the procedure is increased. For example, use of personal computer. Okay. Next thing is complex overt response. Next level of psychomotor domain is complex overt response. Next slide. It is ability to skillfully perform complex patterns of actions. Next slide. Ability to skillfully perform complex, previous slide. Complex pattern of action. That means operates a computer quickly and accurately. So as he is practicing, he is practicing into the routine. It has become habitual act. So here the ability to skillful, the skillful levels, the skill is being increased or the level of skill is improved. So she'll be able to perform the complex pattern of action. Even he will be having the he will be bold enough to take a challenge. In any risk situation, she'll be able to take it as a challenge and to perform in a skillful manner. Okay. So operating a computer quickly and accurately. The skillful performance of motor acts that involve complex and movement pattern. Action verbs here used are grind, heat, fix, manipulate, measures, assemble, display, and mixes, organize, and sketches. So complex overt response. Next slide. Adaptation. So ability to modify learning skill to meet special situations. So here we should have, we are here, which is mainly focusing on, we are making a students to develop or develop a presence of mind. That I can say. Skill were well developed and the individual can modify movement pattern to fit special requirements. For example, he will be able to respond effectively in unexpected experience as an emergency shock case. So he will be when he is confident enough, when he come across all this level, when she come into this particular adaptation level, he will be able to perform independently with his own unique nature to meet some special manner. For example, a designer uses plastic bottle to create dress, wealth out of waste. So because this is what talks about the, here he is using his innovation power. Whatever he has been learned is putting into the form of innovative method is called adaptation. Okay, ability to modify learning skills to meet special events. So here action verbs are adapt, alter, change, rearrangement, and recognizes, revise, and varies. Next, organization. Here again, the main organization, it is creating new movement pattern to fit the particular situation and specific problem. For example, construction of new theories. So after learning everything with all the domains, after exposing into all the domains, whatever we have done, that was coming to the point of origination. That means creating a new movement pattern. Sorry, it is not organization, origination. creating new movement pattern to fit a particular situation and specific problem. So example for origination, construct a new nursing theory. So by this time, the student will be able to perform independently, will be, I mean, from from province to excellent. So once when the teacher make the learners to involve or expose into all these three domains with all these three levels, then from novice and at last, the learner will become in a excellent manner, excellent level, province to excellent level. So for which these are the verbs could be used: arrange, builds, combines, compose, constructs, creates, design, and initiate, make, or originate. Next slide. Next slide. In psychomotor domain, Dave taxonomy is also there. He is also a curriculum planning theorist. He has mentioned some 5 psychomotor domains. One is imitation, which means observing and copying someone else, observing and copying someone else. And manipulation, that means guided and instruction to performance. So guiding and the way we give the instruction, accordingly, the student, the learner will perform the skill. And precision. Precision means it is accuracy and proportion and exactness exists in the skill performance without the presence of original source. Just whatever he has assumed, that could be planned and implemented. Precision, accuracy in an accurate manner. And articulation. Articulation, which means 2 or more skill combined together, and it will be ordered, sequent, and performed consistent. This is what articulation. And naturalization, that means 2 or more skills are combined and sequence ordered and performed consistently with ease. This performance is automatic with little physical and mental attention, for which we need to have physical and mental attention. In order to easy remembrance, I have made one mnemonics here. Please press. So this is Dave's taxonomy for psychomotor domains. Please press, please. Imitate mom, your favorite teacher. Imitate your favorite teacher, that is mom's pattern, to articulate nursing science. So this is easy to remember, the Dave's levels of Dave's taxonomy. Imitate your mom, ma'am, not mom, ma'am, your favorite teacher. Imitate your favorite teacher's pattern to articulate nursing sciences. Next slide. One more, Harrow, he is also a cognitive theorist, cognitive psychologist in the year of 1972, along with Dr. Benjamin Bloom's. He has derived this psychomotor domains, perception, set, whatever we have said, guided response and mechanism, with a coordination, including involuntary response and learned capacity. So just to remember this, Prasanna, smartness and goal, modern hair competency. So if we use all those, so this is Harrow's taxonomy is one of the refined psychomotor domain. Next slide. So in which are the ways where we can use, why it is important? In already I was mentioning that. So this Bloom's taxonomy would be very helpful to design your basic objectives, educational objectives. That would be helpful for both the teachers and both the learners and the educators, in order to have accountability, responsibility for a self-growth, for betterment of learning thing. It would be helpful for making a critical, to empowered in a critical thinking way. It would be helpful. In which are the areas or the methods or the ways to use in the classroom? So this Bloom's taxonomy, when you are framing your curriculum design, this would be very much useful for an effective curriculum designing, and for lesson planning also, writing up the lesson planning. So this is also will be very helpful for making. So in the lesson plan, we normally use, so which when you are making educational objectives, see to that it should be a combination of all these three domains with all the levels. And assessment development, for making a different assessment development. For example, how we can frame the formative evaluation assessment and the summative assessment. What are the techniques could be, or the different techniques could be incorporated by using the Bloom's taxonomy of all the domains. And even questioning technique, for making a question, setting of the questions, whether it be a oral question or written or a essay type. So when you frame a question by using this technique of using of this Bloom's technology taxonomy, the student's answer would be in an elaborate manner. You are making indirectly to make the students to learn in an elaborative manner. Okay, and differentiated instruction. That means there are number of teaching strategy which could be used to impart knowledge to the students. Like for example, now there are so many. So these are the different, what are the different techniques of the teaching can be utilized in teaching learning process. In such a way, it would be helpful in Bloom's taxonomy. So these are some of the ways to use the Bloom's taxonomy in the classroom. Okay, next. Next. Okay. So take home message which I want to tell you is that taxonomy of pedagogy, it is a tool. How it is a tool for the instructors to make a person, to make your teaching in an effective manner, and to frame your to design your educational objectives, to make your proper curriculum planning, and how the lecture or the content to be delivered in an innovative manner, for which this Bloom's taxonomy is very much useful for the educator. And also for education, for the teacher, for the learner, this will also helpful to promote a habit of promote the critical thinking in learning process, as well as it will be helpful for deep learning into among the learners. So this is how it would be helpful in the Bloom's taxonomy is very much helpful. Okay, next, just press please. So as Abdul Kalam said, learning gives creativity. Creativity leads to thinking. Thinking provides knowledge, and knowledge makes you great. So this is what, so in the nutshell manner, Dr. Abdul Kalam said about the Bloom's taxonomy. So as a teachers, what in nursing pedagogy, what is expected is make the students to learn or develop a critical thinking in a creative manner, make a learner to think and rethink, so that he will be able to obtain a proper knowledge, and at last we the faculty, a nursing faculty or a teacher, will be proud enough to say that I have produced a great Indian citizen, that is the learner. So these are in our hands through effective learning. Next slide. Effective learning. So when we use all these domains, all this taxonomy, automatically we follow the effective manner. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your precious time. On behalf of everyone present here, I would like to extend our deepest gratitude to Professor Maria, ma'am, for her enlightening lecture on the domains of pedagogy. Dr. Maria, your expertise and insight have truly enriched our understanding of pedagogical principle and their application in various domains. We express our heartfelt appreciation for the time and effort you dedicate to preparing and delivering this lecture. Your patience for education and your commitment to sharing knowledge are evident in the depth of your presentation. We are truly grateful for the valuable lesson we have learned. Thank you so much, ma'am, once again. Before we conclude this enriched session on pedagogy, pedagogical domains, it is my privilege to invite Mr. Dulab Singh Parihar, Assistant Professor at ITM University, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. So gratitude all of the full of life, it turns what we have into enough and more. It turns denial into acceptance, choose to order, conflict to clarity, and it can turn a meal into a feast, a house into a home, a stranger into a friend. I, Durlab Singh Parihar, Assistant Professor, School of Nursing Science, and the entire fraternity of the institution consider it a great privilege to purpose a vote of thanks to our speaker, Professor Dr. Maria, Vice Principal, Mother Teresa, PG and Research Institute of Health Science, Pondicherry. We are truly grateful for the time and effort they have invested in preparing for today's session. I'm really, ma'am, today we are lucky to have your session. As we express our gratitude, we must never forget that the highest appreciation, not to use your words, but to live by them. I put forward my gratitude, Dr. Minnie and Dean Sons, for the perfect logistic support and guidance they had extended to all of us. I extend my gratitude to all School of Nursing Science and Nursing Teacher Association India, the involvement and they're willing to take the completion of tasks beyond their comfort zone. We have been fortunate enough to be backed by a team very motivated and dedicated to faculty. So thank you all.
As we conclude these sessions on the domain of pedagogy, I want to express my appreciation to everyone who contributes to making today a success. Our heartfelt thank you go to our honorable guest speaker, Dr. Maria, for sharing her profound knowledge and insight with us. Her expertise has undoubtedly left a lasting impact of our understanding on pedagogical principles. I would also like to extend my gratitude to all the participants for their active engagement and valuable contribution. Let's us approach Monday's session with the open minds, ready to explore new perspectives and eager to implement innovative strategy in our teaching practice. Have a fruitful day. We will see you on Monday. Excited to embark on the next phase of our faculty development program. But before we conclude these sessions, I would request you all to kindly turn on your camera so we can take a picture together. I would request you all to kindly turn on your cameras, please. Thank you so much for your patience, your cooperation. We'll see you on Monday. Thank you so much, everyone.